Excellent. All right. So I think we're going to start now. I don't know what time it is. Let me see. We have 2 minutes more. Okay. Let's just wait a little bit. Who else is here? Let's see. I have some people from Mexico. Oh, well, great, great, great. Yeah, some people from California. Thank you for being here. So nice to see you all. Yeah, another one from Dallas, Texas. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Switzerland. Oh my God. All right. It must be like afternoon for you. So again, as I said, thank you so much for being here, for being from Massachusetts, Colorado. Thank you. Thank you for being here and being part of this. It's so nice to see you all and be and hear where everyone is coming from. So I think I'm going to start. So again, you know, this is project ReImagine invited me to be part of this and to give you some insights on the work that I do. My background, I will tell you a little bit later about me, but you know, this is about learning new strategies, new tools in these times, and hopefully, you know, I can add something to what you're already doing to just be help, you know, during these times. So so let me tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Monika Carrick. And yes, I am going to try to do this in 60 minutes. This is a 60-minute talk about how you can build more resilience and well-being during these times and what is under your control. And as I said, my goal is to increase your toolkit and see, you know, what else you can add to what you're already doing. I'll make sure to leave time at the end, so you can either, you know, hit me up on the Q&A or in the chat as you already did. So that's perfect. If Wi-Fi fails, as you know, we're all doing this from home and sometimes things happen. So just patience. If I, you know, like if you log out, I'll be here. And if I log out, just wait for me, I'll come back. So before starting, I always like to take a big deep breath, just because we were kind of probably rushing to get here and we're finally here. And I want you to really listen to all of these that we're going to talk about with an open mind, with time to just really think about how and what else you can do and what can help you, right? So just if you are, you know, you're sitting or lying down or whatever, just feel the ground that you're touching. If it's your feet, you know, your seat, just breathe in very deeply up to your stomach. I'll do it with you. We're going to do it 2 more times, okay? And once more, we're all doing it together, from Colorado to Switzerland to Oregon to Georgia. Thank you for doing this with me. So we are going to, first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, okay? So I am the founder of Life Full of Goodness. I founded it 3 years ago. And what I do is coaching programs, corporate workshops about things that can help us with resilience, mindfulness, balance, and fulfillment. So I have, you know, several things that I studied in Berkeley, Yale, and the Greater Good Science Center, which probably some of you know about. I'm a volunteer for Action for Happiness, which is a charity in the UK that kind of tries to bring this information to different communities. So I have been volunteer for them. I am a life coach, an executive coach, and I am trained as a Lego Serious Play facilitator. I also am part of different women's group. One is the Lola here in Georgia, and We by We, which is in Argentina. I also do a lot of workshops for General Assembly. And I'm also part of another movement called Presencing Institute that, you know, is looking to transform in a good way, whatever is happening, especially during challenging times. So that's the thing. I gave a TEDx talk last year in Texas. So like my topic is definitely, the science of well-being and how we can apply it to work and to life. And my past is in advertising. That's what I used to work before I founded Life Full of Goodness. So I work in different agencies. I am Mexican, so I worked in Mexico. Then I moved to London and I worked over there for 7 years in Y&R. So some of the brands that I work with are English. And then I moved here to the US and I kept on doing this work in strategic planning for advertising agencies. So that's my background and that's what I do. So that's a little bit of background behind who am I. So most of you don't know me. So yeah, so as I said, we're going to talk about things about positive psychology, and maybe you know a little bit about it, but 20 years ago, the focus for psychology changed from mental illness to mental well-being. So a lot of research has been done in the last 20 years, which really is giving us information about what habits and actions makes a difference in our well-being and what is under our control. So that's the context behind this. And there are two concepts that I would like to share with you that are very important in the work that I do and the work that you can do. So first of all, what's under our control? So there is this model called the ABC model. And, basically what it says is there's something that happens in our life. It could be whatever. It could be the virus now, or it could be that we lose our jobs or something like that. And that will be the event. And normally there's a consequence after that. Is the way that we feel and how we act as a result, right? But what this model is telling us is that there is something in the middle called the belief. And the belief are our thoughts and actions that we how we interpret what's going on. So thinking about the virus, I think that we can have different beliefs about it, right? So it could be, and that would lead us to have different ways that we react, right? So if the belief is that this is something that is totally destroying, then we will believe, and our consequence will be, we will be panicked and worried, and that will be the way that we will act as a result. If the belief that we give it to this is acceptance, then our way that we will react will be totally different, right? Because then we will make it part of our life and try to live with it, right? If at some point we can achieve the mindset or the belief that, well, maybe this is helping us grow in some way, then the way that we'll act will be different too. So this is kind of a main thing to think about. What is the belief that we're giving, to challenging times, to these specific times of COVID, and how we can react, and then maybe make some changes in that belief and change the perspective and see if that can help us. So that's one concept that I wanted to share with you. The next concept will be is what determines our well-being. So a lot of studies have been done on twins to find out, well, what really is our DNA kind of genetic disposition. And then what else is what we can add, the nature versus nurture, right? So a lot of studies were done by Sonia Lyubomirsky with twins, as I said, and what they came up with is that actually only 50% is what we are coming from to this world, right? Well, it's our genetic set point. And then there are 10% that are circumstances. So circumstances that's like income or social status, or maybe an event that happened like this. It only accounts for 10% of how we feel. But 40% are actually intentional activities and thoughts and actions that we do. So there's what I like about this is that there is actually a lot that we can do to feel better, even if things are going wrong. And what we're going to talk about are what are those actions that they have discovered make the difference, or what are those thoughts. So as I said, there are going to be 10. So there are 10 areas, and we're going to start with the first one. And maybe it's helpful if you can think about in these areas, what are you doing? And maybe what can you do different, or you can add to it. So the first one is giving. So doing things for others. Now, what the studies in positive psychology have shown is that there is a big link between well-being and giving to others. So the more you give to others, the better you feel, and the better you feel, the more that you want to give. So thinking about that, uh, also they found that there are some endorphins that come from when we give, right? So I don't know if you have ever heard this helper's high, they call it. So, when we end up being part of a charity event or being part of something where we are kind of giving our time, our volunteering, or we're volunteering our time or our money, then we feel very good. And that's because there are some endorphins coming on, and we feel good, right? So thinking about these times, I think that giving also makes us feel useful, right? Because we feel sometimes so kind of hopeless and out of it. But if we are helping, we are supporting other with what we can do, or what are our gifts, and what we can do, so we can feel a little bit better. So how can we get? Well, support maybe. Well, first of all, maybe taking care of others by, doing what we know that we have to do, wearing masks, making sure that we are distanced, all of that we already know, it's a way to give. Also supporting, maybe our community, maybe our neighbors, but also possibly being extra kind to people, because, we have been impacted in so many different ways. And just being a little bit more patient makes a difference, right? And also asking for help, because sometimes we forget that when someone helps us, they are also giving something, and they are going to feel good if they help us. So asking for help, there's nothing wrong about helping, asking for help. And so that is kind of the first area that I wanted to share with you. And, that's giving. The next area that makes a difference is relating, is connecting to people. And what we now have, if you are in 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 at home with your family, I'm sure that you have been spending a lot of time together, right? And basically, what if there is one thing that predicts well-being, is how meaningful are your relationships, how deep and meaningful are your relationships, even more than eating well, even more than being active, is how supported you are by meaningful relationships. And it doesn't matter if it's only 2 or 3 or 4 people or 10. What's important is that you have someone that you can rely on when things go wrong. So it's important to pay attention to our relationships and kind of deepen them and making better and reaching out and make sure that we are supported. So in these times, I think that what we can do is really to make those relationships deeper and better, and have a real interest when you talk to others, have a real interest about what's their experience, because it is very different to what my experience is and what someone else's experience is. So it's very important to have that kind of open mind when you're talking to people. And talking about open minds, it's also important to bridge our differences, because we don't all think the same thing, right? And we are really trying to find our best way around it, and a lot of people don't think like we do. So what can we how can we kind of bridge those differences? How can we look into what's the qualities of other people, so that we can make a connection even if we think different things? So that was the second area. So we're having giving and relating, and we're going into the third one, which is exercising. So taking care of your body and mind. So what's important here? There are a lot of studies that show that movement helps with anxiety and depression. So it doesn't have to be like a marathon or something like that. It's just being active, not being kind of sitting down that much. There is a link between sitting down and being anxious. So so what the idea here is just to make sure that we are really as much as we can moving, and not also that, but also going out in nature, like just there's this other element of what helps us, which is awe. And awe is, when you see something that is kind of beyond yourself, when you see the spring sprouting, or, the birds kind of flying, or, like a turtle, like just those little pieces of, oh, what, how beautiful is that, a new baby. All of that gives us awe and help us with our mind and how we feel about, it makes us feel hopeful. So, let's talk about, physical activity, being out in nature, or bringing nature somehow to your life. Another important thing in this area of taking care of our body is sleeping well. So I have had a lot of people that tell me that, they cannot sleep well in these times. And what I have noticed is that when that happens is because we are really overwhelming ourselves with news and comments and things that are not really helping us, right? So, what I would suggest is, just have a healthy diet of what you let in your, what you see, what you watch on TV, what you read. Anything that is kind of riling you up, then I don't think that it's going to help you feel well, and then have a positive mindset when you go to sleep. And the best way actually to have a positive mindset when we are going to sleep is to think about things that were especially beautiful in the day, or even a nice thing that you can be grateful for. Just kind of have that thought, and go through your day, and start to point out those things that were good, that were nice, that kind of give you a little bit of hope before going to bed. And then one more thing that I would like to add in this is catching the sun. Vitamin D is very important, and sometimes we forget that is, especially now that we have to be inside. So even getting close to a window, if that's the best that you can do, that's important, to kind of catch some sunlight if possible. So all of this helps you with kind of focus, with memory. It's not only about being physically active, but it also helps your mind. So yeah, this is the third area that I wanted to talk about. And the fourth one is awareness. I know that a lot of people are meditating more, and there's a reason for that, right? Because that helps us be in the present. Because when we are thinking about the past, and especially in these moments, we might think, how good we had it, and then bring some emotions on, sadness and being melancholic about it. That is probably not helping us. And if we think about the future, that we really don't know exactly how it's going to fold out, then we might choose to make ourselves some stories about how terrible it could be, and being worried about that, and not really, and that's not true yet, or it might not be true ever. So when we kind of come back to the present moment, then that calms our mind. That makes us feel more in control. And also that gives us the opportunity to just focus on what is the next meaningful thing that you can do now, not thinking about future, not thinking about past. So I have been involved in a lot of talks with first responders, and there is some what the advice of kind of the highest doctors or the highest academics on what they can do now that they are in very difficult situations. And you might think that the advice will be something like very high and difficult to do, but actually the advice to first responders is always to breathe deeply, to breathe deeply between patients, to move, which is what we talked about before. So move a little bit if you can. Be sure that you are taking a breath every time that you feel anxious, or you're feeling that you're breathing rapidly. Just make sure to take a deep breath. They recommend this kind of inhale for 4 counts, keep it in for 6, and then exhale for 8. So that's basically what they are telling, even the people that are in the front lines and having the hardest of times. So just add that to your toolbox. Just breathing in between. If the kids are being difficult that day, then just take those moments to come back to yourself, to breathe deeply, and then your mind will be in a better shape to kind of know what to do next. um, so we have giving, relating, exercising, and awareness. And the next one is trying out new things. So keep learning. And why this is important? Well, that trying out new things help us to be being more creative, more flexible, more curious. And also when we kind of are able to learn something new, we feel accomplished. And that makes us feel good and give us some kind of, again, some hope. Hope is very important in difficult times. So it gives us hope. It gives us, like something to put our mind into. And sometimes we put that on the side because we think it's not important, but it's really one of the things that you can do to be better after you took the time to learn something new. So find out what helps you. So also trying out helps you to, okay, try things and see, well, this one didn't really, I didn't really enjoy, or I really didn't get it, or even being in this class it's a very good way to think about like new things, or maybe opening your mind to something new, whatever it is that can help you during these times, and going back to what you love to do, going back to things that you stopped doing because you didn't have time. I think all of that is very, very good to for your well-being. I was reading the other day of this Chinese lady living in Wuhan, that when lockout started, she saw her ukulele and she thought, okay, from now on, every day I'm going to be playing ukulele. And then, like 4 months passed by. She was going back to work, and she never play the ukulele, which I think that's something that happens to all of us very often, that we think, okay, now is the time to do something that we thought we didn't have time for, and now we have the time, but we still don't do it. So, just make sure that you are adding those things into your life, because that will make you just be able to accept these challenging times and just move on with them. So those 5 things, giving, relating, exercising, being aware, and trying out, are things that we can do and are almost like out of us, like there's an action to be done outside of us. So the next 5 things that I'm going to talk about are things that are more about your inside, and things that you can think of, and maybe that it needs a little bit of reflection and self-reflection, right? So let's move on. And the next one is direction. So direction is to have goals to look forward to. So goals are really important because they motivate us, they guide us, and again, they give us hope, right? And it's important when we are talking about goals, it's important for us to reconnect them with our core values. So what is important to us? I think that at this time, a lot of things are coming up, uh, and we are realizing what has really been important to us and we were not taking care of. So if you can take a time to think about, okay, what is what I really believe in? What are my values? What I think it's important to me? That's how we can start to think about your goals. Now, in this time also, there are some kind of short-term goals, which are almost, like keeping healthy, making sure that we can work and that we are, getting some money so that we can get by. And that is kind of the short term, right? And I think that there's a long-term opportunity to think about, okay, what's next? What am I noticing? How I want to use these learnings from lockdown for my future, right? So it's kind of those both things at this point, right? Your short term, keeping healthy, your long term, what am I noticing that is important, and how I can add it to my life and make sure that I have something to look forward to. Some goals is good to kind of write down those goals and think about how you're, taking small steps to getting there. So that's direction. Let's move on to the next one, which is resilience. Resilience is about finding ways to bounce back. And I also like to say there are ways to bounce, not even only back, but forward, right? So I always think about how challenges are part of life, like suffering and challenges are just part of life. Sometimes we forget that it's just, we're going to experience them no matter what. So we're going to experience sickness, we're going to experience death, we're going to experience, like a bad economic moment, like financial worries. All of that is really part of life. So when we are in that moment, and then all of those are kind of part of a process, right? Like it's not how it's going to be always. It's just, it comes and goes. So what has helped me and what has helped my clients is to always think about what is under your control. Because if we want to see and we want to change things at a super macro level, that makes us only feel overwhelmed and not capable of doing, things that we think we can. But if we focus on our little corner and what we can control, then we can choose between having a constructive response to it or a damaging negative response to it. So that's up to us. How, the challenge is going to be there. So how we react is on our, it's in our control. So what I have been offering other people is just look for a statement that helps you kind of go through the difficulties. And I was giving this same content to a group of climbers, mountain climbers, like kind of very professional ones. And I love their insight, because they were saying that when they were climbing like a long, big, huge mountain, they normally focus on their feet. Because if they see the peak, and they are walking, and trying to get there, but they immediately feel how huge the feat is, right? It's so huge that they immediately feel tired because of just looking at it and see how far it is. But if they focus on their feet and each step, it kind of helps them little by little get closer to the peak. So when they shared that with me, it really kind of resonated, because if we are looking at this kind of big mountain that is, how we're going to come out of this virus and how long it's going to take, and everything that we read and listen, it's really a high, huge peak, and even kind of covered by clouds. But if we kind of come down and say, okay, what's here now? What is the next step that I can give, and little by little go through it. Well, now we have been, probably like 9 weeks in lockdown, and might be more difficult or less difficult than you thought it was going to be, but it has been, kind of little by little that we are going through it, right? It's a process. So that's what I would like to offer about resilience. And also, nice thing about resilience is that all of the other things that we talked about and that we are going to talk about also support resilience. So relationships, again, will support your resilience and being able to move forward. Being active, being aware, having a goal, all of that helps you with your resilience. So if you think about all of this, then it's gonna push you and move you forward. So that's what I would say about resilience. We're going to move on, and I see that there are some questions, but I will look at those at the end. But just keep sending them, and we'll definitely look at them at the end. Next one is emotions. So emotions, it's an interesting topic, right? Because we tend, like our brain, and I'm sure that if you have been reading a little bit about psychology, you know that our brain is meant to focus on what's negative for our survival. So we always look for what could be worse and what is bad, so that we can kind of fix it and then, just go back, right? And if we know that's the way that we think about, then there's something that we can do about it, right? So yes, first we look into the negative. And yes, we have difficult emotions, right? That we shouldn't and cannot ignore. So what do we do with those things? So what I can offer to you is that don't ignore your feelings, but look at them with curiosity. So if you are feeling sad, just keep kind of digging, what is that sad? What is that telling me? Why I'm sad about? Where am I feeling it? Just be really curious, because there's this saying that they say, name it and then you can tame it, right? So name what you're feeling and then you can tame what you're feeling. And also it gives you a little bit of space in between what you're feeling and what is it about. When we kind of are curious about it, the feelings become a little bit more subtle. So that helps to go through difficult emotions. So on one side, I would say definitely be curious about what you're feeling. Don't ignore it. It's okay. They say, it's okay not to be okay. And it's allowed, right? Especially at these times. But how about the other side? Like if we tend to focus only on what's negative, then we're not going to be able to notice what is good, right? So what is it that is good? What are we appreciating every day? Notice it, and take either take note, either take pictures, either just make sure that you are making space for those good things too, because even in the worst of situations, there's something good. There's something good always. So I would like to offer that in talking about emotions. Those two things: be curious, and also notice what is good, even if it are little things. So that it's emotions. We're moving into acceptance. So be comfortable with who you are. So what is this thing about acceptance? I think what is bringing is the concept of being kind and compassionate to yourself, right? Not being judgy about what you're feeling or how you're feeling or how you're dealing with this, but just, what would you say to someone that is going through what we are all going and you are going through? And how would you treat it? If it was your friend, what would you say? So it's interesting, because we think it's rare that we think how we talk to ourselves and what's our internal dialogue. And I first invite you to be aware of that internal dialogue and what are you telling yourself, and also getting a little bit of compassion and get a little attention to that, so that you can kind of tweak it so that is kinder, that is just think about of yourself as if you are a friend. And and a, a way to do this is to remember what are your strengths. So just remind yourself, okay, what am I good at? Because sometimes, because we are so good at something, we think that everyone is good at it, and then it's not important. But actually, every one of us have different gifts that we want to give to each other, and that it's important that we kind of bring out to the world, especially at this time. So what are you good at? If you're good at cooking, then, like either cook for others or, like share your secrets, with your friends. Something that make you feel good about yourself is important for acceptance. If you're good at kind of art, drawing, please share it with us, because we want to see art and we want to learn how to do it. Or we maybe, there's something that you can do about it with your art. So just bring those strengths, even if you can do a little list of them, and then just choose one or two that will really help you go through these times with those. You surely have strengths that you can really use in these times. So that's a good thing about being comfortable with who you are. Just notice what are your strengths. And now we're moving into the last one, which is meaning. So being part of something bigger. And I noticed that when I kind of share things about meaning and purpose, people really get overwhelmed, because they are like, I don't know what my purpose is and I don't know what gives me meaning. But actually, the sources of meaning are very simple, and they can be described in three buckets. Okay, so the first bucket will be work. right? So something that if you love your work, or what you are doing is important to others, or you want to leave a legacy through your work, that is a source of meaning. So I have some examples for you, and there's this research done um, on hospital janitors. So the study was about, okay, so we're going to interview hospital janitors, and then we're going to find out what is it that they see in terms of their job, what is it that they enjoy, what is it that makes them come to work and motivate them to come to work every day. So they, when they did the research, they did in several hospitals, and they were divided into two groups. Okay, so one group, when their answers were divided into two groups. One group of janitors, really, they went to work, of course, because of the paycheck, because of the benefits, and they saw their work as something that they did, and they probably didn't really like it. I mean, they said that, I don't like it, but this is the way that I can make ends meet, and that's why I do it. So that's one group. And then they noticed that there was another group. The researchers noticed that there was another group that really saw their work as part of the healing process of patients. And those kind of obviously measure more higher in well-being, and how they were feeling about their work and how motivated they were. But what was interesting is kind of the meaning they put behind their job. So they always try to spend more time with patients that were not visited that often. They made a point to talk to the visitors, especially of those that their patients were very sick, and were really worried. They thought that what they were doing was really helping with this process of healing, and that make them feel good about their job and give them meaning, and help them go every day with a positive mindset. So it's interesting how the source of meaning help you, motivates you, gives you hope, everything that we have been talking about. And there's one source of meaning. So work is how we see work. It's one source of meaning. Another source will be helping others. So helping others will be, what is it that I'm doing to kind of make someone else's better, right? So sometimes, it's very often that when there's like an accident, or someone passes away, that they the family decides to open a charity that has to do with it, and to educate people about it. And that is the way that they go through the pain, right? Because they are helping others not going through the same thing, or making sure that they can prevent it with their job, with their work. So that's another source of meaning, right? The way that we can help others. And the last one is relationships. So just knowing that there's someone there, like waiting for you, or that you love someone and someone loves you. It's a source of meaning that helps you kind of move forward when things go wrong. So if you have ever read kind of books about like survival books on people that have plane crash, like in the Andes, like years in the 70s, and how they went through days and days without food in the middle of the Andes, between Chile and Argentina. When they talk about it, and what they have written in their books, is how what helped them was to know that someone was waiting for them, and that they wanted to give them that happiness of, I'm alive. So actually, we're good. Also, that just happened recently with the Thai soccer team that was stranded in the caves. It was the same thing when they asked them, how could you deal with 15 days? They were supporting each other as a team, and they were kind of looking forward to seeing their families again. So those are the three areas where we can find meaning, right? Work, helping others, and relationships. So, and this is another area, that we can kind of think what we're doing about it, and that we can either add things, or maybe that's something that you already do. So let me just go through the 10 again. So we talk about giving, we talk about relating, exercising, being aware, trying out things, give yourself directions with goals, support your resilience, be okay with your emotions, make sure that you're accepting yourself, and finding what gives you meaning specifically to you. It's not the same for everyone. And what I would like to tell you is that, it seems simple, but as simple things are, it needs practice. And it's so simple that we sometimes forget about these things, especially when we are going through rough times. Sometimes when we are in the middle of something, just, taking a walk kind of opens our minds to something new. Maybe, it is just reaching out and asking for help, or making sure that you are supporting your relatives that are far away. So, just it's a matter of practice in finding out what works for you and what's most important. It's not the same for everyone. For some, having meaning is one of the main things that make them work through. Like I was yesterday in one of these events from ReImagine with Dr. Brilliant, and he was saying that the way he's going through this is just thinking about his work. That's what gives him meaning, and that's what keeps him, resilient and just moving through it, right? So it's not the same for everyone. For some, it's relations, and for some, it's just making sure that you are well and you're self-loving in the right way. So just, keep adding tools, keep trying things until you find something that is really, or you're finding out like 3 or 4 that are real, what makes a difference to you. And some areas need more practice than others, and some areas are totally out of your control, or out of your comfort zone. That's what I meant, out of your comfort zone, but it's good to try them out. So what I would like to ask you, and I'm going to go straight into your questions, is what have you been doing that has been a game changer for your well-being during COVID? So if you can think of that and share with us, it will be great. I'll read it out, so maybe you can sparkle something in others and in other attendees. And what is your biggest takeaway from this talk? So any of those two, and if you want to share with us, is great. And if you want to kind of journal it too. So I am going to try to see your cues and your chats. I have a question about relating. How do you recommend us being able to relate to others while having to be stuck at home? Any advice? So what I can think of there is we have a lot of ways to relate to others, right? We have right now we have so many kind of different, like the Facebook or Instagram. Like even if we're at home, we can reach out. Another thing is, we can go out and start to help if we are taking care of ourselves and taking care of others, right? So we can definitely start to come together. Like again, I'm going to refer back to what Dr. Brilliant, which is he knows a lot about pandemics, was talking, like yesterday, he mentioned, yeah, I mean, I get together with people, but we definitely, keep the rules in line. So 6 feet apart, we wear masks, but we are together. And I think that we are social animals and we need that. So if we take care of those things, I think that we're going to be fine. And it's definitely important to look after that. Will the slides be available after the call? Yes. Oh yeah, sure. I will definitely share with you, with all of you. I have your email, so I will send you this presentation happily. And thank you for listening, even if it was on the phone, Bethany. Let me find out what else I can see coming from you in the chat. Yes, you will have a copy of the presentation. Thank you. Thank you for, will the recording be able to share? Yes, I'll definitely try to make sure that that's available to all of you. If you have any other questions, let me see, I'm trying to see all the questions. I've been talking on the phone again. But now I find such a connection with talking to my loved ones on the phone. I know, game changer. Okay, sorry, I didn't read it properly. Game changer. I have been talking on the phone again. Before I was an exclusive texter. Oh, now I get it. But now I find such a connection with talking to my loved ones on the phone. And yes, it definitely has brought us together in some ways. I would like to share with you that my mom lives back in Mexico, and my kids, sometimes they will, kind of call her, but it was really like probably like once a month if we were lucky. But since this has started, they are making, she's in lockdown by herself. So they have been making sure that they call her more often, because they know that, that she's by herself, and that, it's kind of a little bit of the bright side of the day. So they are making sure that, all of them call them one of the days to make sure that she feels, kind of listened to, and they had something to chat about. So I just find that, yeah, definitely, yeah, I know it's so precious, and I'm really happy to that, these things happen, and it's definitely, it changes. It's a game changer. So excited to be here. Yes, thank you. Let me see, there are other questions. Yeah, I don't see any more. Let me see if I'm checking them all. Anything that you want to, so I hear a lot of, I read a lot about that you would like to make sure that you have it, and I will make sure that you do, because this is exactly what, like, this is what I'm kind of, I feel that I'm good at, and that I want to kind of share it and make sure that, people can, keep on going even in these times, and there are things that we can use to make us go through it. So again, a copy of the presentation, I promise I will give it to all of you. And let me just then talk about what, just a little bit of I am part of continuing care. Let me see one more. I am part of a continuing care community, and those retired but very involved. I am reevaluating the committees, activities, and events. I'm going to resign from some and take on some new inside my community and outside. Yes, I have heard that a lot from other people, like, this is really making us reevaluate what is important to us and what we think will we want to spend our time as, right? It's really bringing us to think about our time is precious, and the people that we spend time with is precious too. So I'm glad that you are kind of reevaluating what you want and who you want to help. Thank you for sharing, Susan. I really enjoy the part in resilience. I have also tried to focus on small things during these days. I have a question. Do you think that there is a relationship between well-being and death? I tell you what I think about that. I think that if you live a good life where you are really focusing on what's important to you, in really focusing on helping others, when you are at the end of your days, you feel good about your life. You are not fearful of death. And I talked to you about this with my experience. My dad passed away last year, and he was 85 years old when he passed away. And what I noticed in his process of dying is that he was happy about what he lived and how he lived his life. So he was not fearful about it. And he, I would say that he was not the most healthy guy. He loved to, like, smoke and drink, but he had a very strong, supporting, meaningful relationships around him, always throughout his life. And I think that for him, that was his purpose. His purpose was to have a good family, a great wife, my mom, and making sure that, they were all good. So when you asked me about that, it just brought me to, yeah, I believe that if you are, really focusing on what's important to you, what makes you happy, thinking about the others, helping others, supporting others, then when it's your time, you're not fearful and you accept it with what it is, which is part of life. I hope that answered your question. That was a hard question, Michelle. Anyone else? Let me see, I don't even know what time it is. We have like some more minutes. If you have any other questions or you want to share about what is it that was more, your takeaway will be great to know. Let me see if I have them all read. I think I do. Okay. So what I wanted to share with you now is just a little reminder, for me, it's very important to know that we have enough control over how we feel, even in these difficult situations. We do. 40% is a lot. And if you can think about the weather, if you can kind of influence it by 40%, that is a lot. So, so just, put your mind into it, focus into it, try out things. Whatever helps, it's important to do it at this time. The other thing that is important is how we have control on how we look at what happens to us. So, just whenever you feel really down, think about the belief that you're putting around what's going on. So that will be really helpful too. And we can improve our days by the thoughts we think and by the actions we take. And, I gave you 10 actions or 10 areas that you can, and I forgot to mention something. Give me a second, because I saw another takeaway. So I love lists, and especially love your list and the extra information you gave under each point. This presentation really resonated with me, and I'm impressed. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I don't want to read all of that, but yeah, thank you so much for your kind words. I forgot to tell you something. Let me just go back. If you see the 10 areas, there's an acronym on it, which is Great Dream. Maybe, talking about lists, maybe that will help you to just remember when, when things are going bad. So, as you see, it's Great Dream. That's not me. That was put together by Action for Happiness. And I just love how they kind of put together all the insights and put them in 10 different areas, so that we can kind of remember and make it more kind of accessible and available to all of us. So, so thank you. I thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate it. If there's anything else that you want to ask me, I'm here for another couple of minutes. And if there's any other way that I can serve you, these are my details. That's my email. If you have another question, if you have specific resources, this is a workshop that I give in such a longer period of time. Normally I do it in 12 weeks, and I'm just trying to do it in just 1 hour. And there is a lot of information in each of them. Like resilience has a lot to say about it. Relationship, all of that has a lot of studies behind, a lot of resources behind, strategies where how we can improve our relationships, strategies on how we can find out what are our goals. So there's lots of resources about all these 10 areas. And yeah, I don't see any other questions, and I love having you. Thank you so much for staying here until the very end. Thank you for ReImagine, to putting this together. And next week I'm having the same presentation, but in Spanish. So if you have any friends that are Spanish speaking, please share this information, the ReImagine website for them, and it's going to be on the 20th. And just don't be shy. Send me an email if you want to know something more or whatever. Thank you so much. Thank you all. I love that you're still here. Thank you so much. Yes, my contact info, Sarah. I'm seeing your text. Yeah, send me an email, Monika@lifefullofgoodness.com. and then we can talk about it. Let me just send it on my chat too. Thank you. Thank you for all your kind words. Thank you. There you have it. I'm happy to connect with you. Thank you. Thank you all.